Listen, it is not quite a national holiday, but it is Taylor Swift's album release day, so I guess close enough. Today on the show, Taylor just released Speak Now, Taylor's version. Let's go.
The way you move is like a full-on rainstorm, and I'm a house of cards. You're the kind of reckless that should send me running, but I kind of know that I won't get far.
I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. It is safe to say we are living in peak Taylor Swift times. She's breaking records. She's selling out stadiums everywhere, but Canada, it's fine. And today, she released Speak Now, Taylor's version. Let's get into it. I'm so excited. I'm going to drop everything now because we have a wonderful panel to talk all things Taylor Swift. Jen Sukfong Lee, the author of Superfan, Tyler Foggett, senior editor of The New Yorker, Joe Coscarelli, culture reporter of The New York Times. Jen, Tyler, Joe, welcome to Commotion.
Woo! So hyped.
Here we go. Let's do it.
I'm really happy to be here. Honored, honestly.
I love this energy, Jen. Thank you so much for the woo at the start.
That was all for you.
I really appreciate it. I think, I've talked enough about Taylor Swift on the show that people know that, I'm generally, I don't hide the fact that I am a Swiftie. However, this is my album. This is my moment. I've been waiting for this for a minute. I hope that you've been waiting for this for a minute because we're going to talk all about it. But I think it'd be reasonable, Jen, to start with saying outside this fandom, it might seem odd for me to be so excited over songs that I already know, a re-release of an album that already exists. So let's set the table by just explaining to people why Taylor Swift is re-recording a bunch of her old albums, because some people to this day don't know. Jen?
No, and I had to really research and look it back up because I had forgotten a lot of it. But it all started several years ago when Scooter Braun, most famous for being Justin Bieber's manager, bought the label that released Taylor Swift's earlier albums, which means he now owns her master recordings and has control over how they're used, their rights if they can be used in film or advertising or whatever. She has claimed she was never really given a chance to buy the masters herself, and so she started re-recording and re-releasing her earlier albums so that her fans will buy and stream those instead of the ones controlled by Scooter Braun. And I believe it was actually Kelly Clarkson's idea in the first place. Let's drag Kelly Clarkson into it. But there you go. That's the explainer in a very short nutshell.
It was actually recently the anniversary of the tweet where Kelly Clarkson was like, hey, Taylor, just an idea. If you re-recorded all your old music, I would certainly buy the new versions instead. And now look at us, Joe. Look at where this has gotten us. It's gotten us to the moment where Speak Now, Taylor's version has come out. It is the third re-release of her albums. I would say that Speak Now is important to me because it's interesting. It's an interesting place in the Taylor Swift discography. It's the first album that Taylor wrote entirely on her own. She was 20 years old when this came out. Let's, for a moment, listen to one of the bigger hits from that album. Here's Mean.
Someday I'll be living in a big old city, and all you're ever gonna be is mean. Someday I'll be big enough so you can't hit me, and all you're ever gonna be is mean. Why you gotta be so mean?
That is Mean, Taylor's version. No stolen version around here anymore, just so you know. So, Joe, let's talk about Speak Now and its place in the discography. How would you say this album set a foundation for what was to come?
So, Mean notwithstanding, in sound, Speak Now is a little less country, but not quite pop, sort of paving the way for what comes after Red and eventually 1989, her full crossover moment. But I think Speak Now is most important lyrically because it's the first album Taylor wrote as a full-fledged A-list celebrity. Mm-hmm. And on songs like Mean, which is about a specific critic who panned a performance of hers, I believe, at the Grammys, she's beginning to respond to very public narratives about herself.
Right.
So that's tabloid romances on Dear John, or it's the Kanye West moment at the VMAs in Innocent. And this dialogue between Taylor's persona as a celebrity and her confessional songwriting, where she either corrects the record or sets an agenda, becomes a huge part of her artistic project.
And Joe, what's your read in terms of where, the time that Speak Now kind of came out? Because it came out the same year that she won the Grammy for Album of the Year. She won that with Fearless. So there's already kind of like mounting pressure on whatever she follows it up with. But then also it's a year after Kanye West interrupts her at the Video Music Awards. So what's your read on like the work that Speak Now had to do when it came out?
I think it really had to both announce her as a serious artist and clear up the sort of mess that came right before. You mentioned that, it's the first album she writes and only album, I think, that she's ever written where she's the sole songwriter.
Yeah.
And that in it of itself is saying, I am not a manufactured pop girl. I am not a product of a factory. Yeah. I'm going to strip away all the things that people are giving credit for my success. And now that I have the big stage, I'm going to show you that it's all me.
So, Tyler, I think there are songs to me that benefited from the re-recording on Red. There are songs that benefited from the re-recording on Fearless. When you listen to Speak Now, Taylor's version, what jumps out for you?
Yeah, so I feel like there are a couple of ways in which a song can benefit from being re-recorded. The first is that it can literally just sound better because Taylor's voice has gotten just stronger and more mature over time.
Yeah.
And I really noticed that when I was listening to Haunted and to Last Kiss, which is like a 6-minute masterpiece of a song that didn't get that much attention the first time around. And I think that sort of leads into the second way in which a song can benefit from being re-recorded, which is that it can just get a larger audience than it did the first time around.
Yeah.
And so I think that Long Live is another example of a song that is sort of like a fan favorite, but, didn't really get that sort of widespread attention that it perhaps should have. I think one issue that I had with the new Taylor's Version album is that I feel like it's lacking in some of the emotional depth of the original. I feel like the original Speak Now was so angsty. Like it's like the perfect album to scream in your bedroom. Yeah. And I do think that when you listen to the newer versions of the songs that she just sounds like older and a bit more detached. And I think that sometimes that really works. Like when you listen to the new version of Mean and even Never Grow Up, it's kind of cool to hear like an older, more mature Taylor look at these songs again. But I feel like with a song like The Story of Us, I really noticed that this is a more mature person singing.
Yeah, and I think there's sometimes where the brattiness of her voice on the original version of this album really sells the songs. I know we're going to get Better Than Revenge, but I feel like her heart's just not in it this time.
Yeah, and her relationship has clearly changed, right? When we get to songs like Better Than Revenge. Jen, we should talk about Better Than Revenge because in addition to the fact that there's a little bit less sass, there's a little bit less brattiness, she's also revamped the lyrics, right? The original lyrics are she has this part where she says she's better known for the things that she does on the mattress. We don't say things like that anymore, Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift also agrees with that notion. So she's changed that lyrics. The new lyric is, he was a moth to the flame. She was holding the matches. Is it a bar? I don't know. Kind of. It's not bad. But also, are you surprised that she re-recorded, that she did sort of redid that line, Jen?
No, I mean, not at all. And I think my first book came out 16 years ago, and there are definitely lines in there that I regret and that I would change if I could. So I think if I had the power and influence of Taylor Swift and was allowed to go back and change those things, I think that I would. Like, she's 33. It would be very hard for her to say that line at 33, right? So, only Taylor Swift can do this, though, I should say.
She's also, as she says herself, she's a pathological people pleaser. I mean, I think on one hand, she's human. Anyone who has the opportunity to revisit their old work and change it is, it'd be kind of weird for them not to take it. But I also think that she is very focused on how, new audiences take in her music at the same time. Perhaps too focused.
I mean, I think it really undermines the project. I think songs are nothing if not a moment in time. She wrote these as a teenager. And we've gone through this with, funny enough, a band that's opening for Taylor right now, Paramore. They have a song, Misery Business, which is very similar to Better Than Revenge. I think probably a direct antecedent even. Yeah. And for a time, they stopped playing it because they felt the lyrics were anti-feminist. And then they took that back and they were like, we panicked and we were wrong. And this is our best song and everyone loves it. And it represents a moment in time. And we're playing Misery Business again.
I do think that those two songs do different jobs, right? You go to a Paramore show for a Misery Business moment. I don't think you go to Taylor Swift for a Better Than Revenge. I don't even think you even go to Speak Now for Better Than Revenge. And so I don't think she would have thought that this is a really big loss in that way. But does it feel to you like she's kind of rewriting history and it's kind of missing the original purpose of the song?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't go to a Taylor Swift concert to hear her play Better Than Revenge, but you do go for honesty and that like extreme diaristic style. And I think the original line really captured that. That being said, I do think that I actually don't really mind the new lyric. I think that it's probably more elegant than the original one. Yeah. For a while, there was a lot of speculation that the line she was going to change it to was, he's better known for the things that he does with my masters, which would have been so bad.
Yikes. That would have been
unforgivable. Yeah. So like, I was actually pleasantly surprised by what she did change it to.
Crisis averted.
But I think that the actual like weird thing is that changing this lyric doesn't fix the core problem with the song. If you think that there is a core problem, which is that it's all about Taylor complaining about another woman stealing her boyfriends. Yeah. Like, I don't think the song is like misogynistic for its slut shaming. I think it's, you know, if it's sexist, it's because it's holding another woman accountable for the wrongdoing of men. And so even though the mattress line might be the most like sexually suggestive, it's not even the meanest line in the song. I mean, I think when she sings like no amount of vintage dresses can give you dignity, that's a line that bar. Really makes you think.
That's still an all-time bar.
And it went totally untouched.
It did. We should talk about Dear John for a moment. So listen, Joe,
yes,
when Red Taylor's version came out, the whole story was about All Too Well and how that is like about Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake ends up getting all these threats from the fandom and so on. It becomes a story for like 2 or 3 weeks. Speak Now has Dear John, which to me makes All Too Well sound like Shake It Off. Like Dear John is one of her most cutting songs. And then a few weeks ago, Taylor at this concert gives a speech. Let's listen to the speech for a moment.
I'm 33 years old. I don't care about anything that happened to me when I was 19, except the songs I wrote and the memories we made together. So what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not putting this album out so that you can go and should feel the need to defend me on the internet against someone you think I might have written a song about 14 billion years ago.
I know it's a bit hard to make out, but Taylor's saying, listen, I'm 33. I don't care about anything that happened to me when I was 19. I'm not putting this album out so you can feel the need to defend me on the internet. Joe, why did you give that speech?
Look, I'm sure Jake Gyllenhaal wishes he got something similar, and I don't know if it was coincidental, but John Mayer did put up a photo on Instagram yesterday that reads, "Please be kind." So
in purple lettering, I should say. Yes, 100%.
At a Grateful Dead show where he plays guitar. Look, we've been in this moment for quite some time where pop stans can get pretty vicious with perceived enemies, and a lot of the conversation around that has been about what responsibility the stars themselves have to guide or temper their enthusiastic audiences. Taylor's faced this criticism before, especially with regards to Scooter Braun, who she and her fans have painted as the villain of this re-record saga. Though I think it's important to note he no longer owns the masters. He's already sold them. But I ultimately think this is futile. You know, like pop stars can steer their fans away from extreme behavior, and Taylor probably has more sway with her fans than most people do. Yeah. But this song is just more cutting and meaner than any fan could be. So I just, I don't know what I don't know what this accomplishes really.
Jen, her speech just kind of, allows her to sort of circumvent some of the drama that will come out of Dear John coming out. Do you think that she should have done that, or she should have let the drama kind of play out?
I think with Taylor, whether she says something or she doesn't say something, the fans are going to make it mean some Easter egg that it may or may not mean. So I feel for her, she felt that she wanted to say something for her own accountability. Yeah. But I think she knows her fans are going to do what they want. They have their own agency as a hive mind, oddly. Yes, so we do. We know this. But yes, you do, Elamin.
Yes, thank you.
But I don't think either she said, saying something gives it a little bit more airtime, but at the same time, I don't think anything she could say would stop them from doing whatever they want to do to John Mayer. He's easy to make fun of, let's be honest.
But I should say, Tyler, when All Too Well came out, Jake Gyllenhaal got all those threats and stuff. It was after an SNL performance. She kind of built a moment around All Too Well. She could have built the same moment around Dear John now. She's avoiding that. Do you read that as a gracious thing to do?
I think maybe she knew that Jake Gyllenhaal could handle it, but John Mayer couldn't. That's a joke. I don't actually know. I mean, I think
it's not a joke. That's real.
You do kind of get that sense a bit. Yeah. I think the funny thing about both the Jake Gyllenhaal situation and the John Mayer one is that, both All Too Well and Dear John are songs about an older man dating a younger woman who then, and then she gets her heart broken into pieces.
Yeah.
And so even if Taylor says, I'm 33 now, I don't actually care about this thing that happened, I feel like the culture as a whole is still very focused on age gaps in relationships and this idea of grooming. And it also kind of seems like Taylor herself is still kind of concerned about it because there's a song on Midnights that's supposedly about John Mayer. So I just think it's hard for her to tell people not to be upset about this thing that people are upset about in so many other contexts. This idea of there being a significant age gap between two people in a relationship.
You said that thing about Midnights, and my instinct was to be like, you're talking about would've, could've, should've. I'm not trained to stop talking about Taylor Swift. I don't do that very well, but I got to do it. I got to sort of move on. But we're going to keep it going. But after the show, we're going to have a longer conversation, and that's going to be up on the podcast later today. But now I want to take you guys to some drama about Twitter. There's so much drama that a lawsuit has been threatened because a bunch of new apps are vying to replace Twitter. There's been Blue Sky. There's been Mastodon, which I've not been able to figure out. I don't think anyone has. And now there's this new app called Threads. It's from Instagram. Jen, you've tried Threads out. What do you think?
It was freakishly easy to sign up, way too easy, which actually leads me to wonder about like trolls and bots and, various nefarious things happening on there. But it has that like new car smell right now. Yeah. Seems kind of fun, seems kind of zippy. It's all about like novelty and simplicity. My whole thing about Twitter has always been that so many of us were like trauma bonded with how terrible it could be and how terrible we were treated on Twitter. Yes. And therefore we made a lot of friends. And I might miss that, which is totally diabolical, not rational at all. So we'll see what happens with Threads, whether we can also be bonded by like love and affection. We'll find out.
Tyler, what's your vibe on Threads so far? Can it compete with Twitter?
I think it's too Instagram-y. I think that there's like a fundamental difference between what I go to Instagram for and what I go to Twitter for. Yeah. And the fact that Instagram and Threads are so just like connected right now, like the people that you follow or the people who you follow on Instagram. And like, I actually, some of them, I don't mind hearing what their thoughts are, but there are a lot of people who I just follow because like they're visually interesting, whether it's because of how they look or what they post. Yeah. And I don't really need like their political commentary. And so, I posted a thread, I tried it out, and my first thread was basically like, I'm just as interested in reading tweets from the people I follow on Instagram as I am in seeing the Reddit posts of my Facebook friends. And I think that kind of captures it for me. It's just, I don't know. I almost wonder if Twitter is going to be better now because a lot of people will migrate to Threads, and then Twitter will just be full of a bunch of diehards who are trying to make, kind of crazy jokes. Like there might be something kind of interesting happening on Twitter now.
I was going to say, Joe, you're completely avoiding Threads. You're like, Threads, I'm out. Not for me. Why is that?
No new social networks. I'm too old for this.
No new friends.
I don't believe that social networks take off when they are copies of existing social networks. I think, the swings in my lifetime between these different platforms has been because they offer something very new. Yeah. And at the same time, I have a quite unpopular take, which is that Twitter is better than ever for me as a user.
Oh my God.
I can't speak to the mismanagement at the company or, the abuse on the platform. Yeah. But for me, as somebody who's been on Twitter for the better part of every day for almost 15 years now, the For You feed has me more addicted to scrolling than I have been in an extremely long time because of its freshness and its ability to accurately predict what I want to see, which is like obscure rap and NBA memes and Taylor Swift tweets.
I was going to say, like, that is the spiciest take that I've ever heard. We got to also move on from this topic, but on Monday's show, we're going to get into Threads and the future of Twitter. We're going to have a whole conversation about that. Until then, I don't know if you noticed, but it is the season for the song of the summer. So each of us has picked our own personal song of the summer. We put a little special mix of all those songs together. Let's play it. The Super Mix is as follows. Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift. That's my pick. That is not a surprise to anybody involved. Dance the Night by Dua Lipa. Revelations by Kim Petras. And Joe Coscarelli with the chaotic pick World Class Sinner. Lily Rose Depp from the Idol soundtrack. Jen, let's talk about your pick. Why did you choose your choice?
Okay, that song for me has distinct Eurovision, cheesy.
That's Dance the Night Away? That's your pick?
Yeah, Dance the Night Away by Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
It's very Eurovision to me. And in the summertime, I do want to be delighted by cheese and like Versace and like want to pretend I'm on a yacht with like Beyonce. That's all I want. So therefore, Dua Lipa's Dance the Night from the Barbie movie soundtrack, by the way.
I know.
That need for me.
Two weeks from today, Barbie movie comes out. Tyler, let's talk about your pick. So you picked Revelations by Kim Petras. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm actually not a big fan of Petras's new album, Feed the Beast, but this song was taken from an album that she scrapped called Problematique, and then she put this song on the new album. And I just think it's so good. Like, there's this amazing harmony in the chorus. It reminds me a bit of Lightning by Charlie XCX, which is like another song that I really love. It just reminds me of... It's like the kind of song that you don't want to listen to while you're driving because you'll probably start speeding and then hit someone. Like it's so
That's
good.
my kind of music. I'm totally into that. Joe Coscarelli, you were like, you know what you should do is listen to the Idol soundtrack because what you need is a bit of Lily Rose Depp in your life. Why did you pick World Class Sinner?
Look, I think this is the lasting legacy of this show. You know, it's the quote unquote bad pop song from the first episode. You know, I know you've touched on the Idol on this program. It was chaotic. It really fizzled, but I can't get the song out of my head. And I think that goes for everyone who's heard it. And I'm hearing it out, and it's, you know, it's supposed to be bad, but it's just good.
There's something about that song that the first time you hear it, you go, I know what a terrible pop song sounds like, and that is it. And then the second time you hear it, you're like, actually, this is masterful. This is one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. Well, on that note, I appreciate all of you being here. Okay, so real quick before I let you guys go, I just need a recommendation from you about the thing that I should do with my weekend. Tyler, maybe I'll start with you. What should I do?
Yeah, I think either watch the new Mission Impossible movie if it's at a theater near you, and if it's not, then watch the old ones because Tom Cruise is the last great movie star, and they're just incredible films.
I am so excited about this Mission Impossible. I've seen every little, hey, look at Tom Cruise jumping off a cliff, and he never fails to drop my jaw to the floor just in like a trailer. And so I think you're right. The last movie star has got a big movie out. I can't wait. I'm going to look for it. I hear it opens next week, but you know what? If you manage to see it before, then
it's already at some theaters around me, but it's kind of random. So yeah.
All right. I'm researching this the minute I get out of here. Joe, what about you?
I'm deep in a rewatch of what I think is the most underrated HBO show of all time, 6 Feet Under, which I've seen many, many times. It's just not mentioned in the prestige TV conversations, and I think that's so foolish. It's aged so well, some of the best writing I've ever seen on television, and I recommend anyone who hasn't seen it, go check it out.
Incredible. What about you, Jen?
If you haven't watched on Netflix the Tour de France Unchained documentary, highly recommend you watch it, and then you watch the Tour de France. It's happening right now because you will see all this boy drama that you didn't know existed. And I'm like, I love this, like skinny cyclist, like really intense boy drama, and they're only wearing like very thin layers of lycra. It's very interesting. That's all I'm saying.
I have watched the first 2 episodes of the Tour de France show, and I was like, I didn't know that all of this behind-the-scenes drama existed. So I'm sold. Because I didn't have a narrative. At first, it was like, oh, these people just get on bikes and they try to beat each other. But now that I have a narrative attached, I'm all on board with this. Tyler, Joe, Jen, thank you so much for your time, for talking Taylor, for talking Song of the Summer. Those are incredible recommendations, and thank you so much for being on the show. I'll see you guys on Threads, yeah?
Yeah.
Nope.
See you there.
Except for Joe. Joe won't be there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Elamin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ooh, you get my heartbeat racing harder than imagination. Touch me, give me revelations. Give me revelations. I'm not looking for salvation. You make me believe in
That is Kim Petras with Revelations as Tyler Foggett's pick for Song of the Summer. Before that, you heard my conversation about Taylor Swift, about the Threads new app from Instagram, and also the Song of the Summer. We had a wonderful panel. Joe Coscarelli was here. Jansu Fonley was here. Tyler Foggett was here. We had a great time. And you know what? That is it for the show today. Me, I'm just a Swiftie, but I have a name. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. I'm going to be here next week. If you're going to be here next week, hey, let's do this again.